The salt wind off the Pacific rattled the shutters of my little gray house on the cliff above Cannon Beach every night, the same way it had for the last 12 years since Richard died. I was 54, widowed, respectable Evelyn Harper, who baked lemon bars for the church picnic and wore linen blouses buttoned to the throat. My days were quiet, measured in cups of Earl Grey and the soft click of knitting needles. Desire felt like something that belonged to other people, younger people, people who still had color in their hair and mischief in their eyes. That changed the afternoon. David Knox pulled his dusty Jeep into my driveway. David had been my son Ethan's shadow since they were 6 tall. Even then, all elbows and scraped knees, always laughing too loud. Ethan was in Seattle now, married, starting a family. But every summer, David still came back to the coast to help his grandfather fix lobster traps. This year his grandfather had passed, so David came alone. 22 years old, sun-streaked blonde hair longer than I remembered, shoulders that had filled out in a way that made my breath catch before I scolded myself for noticing. He knocked once and stepped inside without waiting, the way he always had. "Mrs. Harper," he grinned, dropping a duffel by the door, "told Ethan I would check on you while I am here. Make sure the widow is not getting too lonely." I laughed it off, offered iced tea, told him to call me Evelyn like I always did. He never did. For the first week, he was the perfect guest. Mowed the lawn without being asked, carried groceries, fixed the loose step on the porch. We fell into an easy rhythm: coffee on the deck in the mornings, long walks on the wet sand at dusk. He talked about college, about the girls who chased him, about wanting something real that did not come with selfies and expectations. I listened more than I spoke, surprised at how good it felt to have a man's voice in the house again. One evening, the sky turned the color of bruised peaches. We were on the back deck. Wine for me, beer for him. The conversation drifted to Richard, how gentle he would been. How careful. David tilted his head, studying me over the rim of his bottle. "You ever miss it, Mrs. Harper? Being wanted like that?" The question hung between us, simple and dangerous. Heat crawled up my neck. I blamed the wine. "Some things are better left in the past, David." He did not answer, just looked at me with those sea glass eyes until I had to turn away. The next morning, I found him in the garage sorting through Richard's old tools. I would meant to clear the place out for years, but never could. Dust floated in the shafts of light, and the air smelled of oil and cedar. I wore an old sundress, nothing special, but when I bent to pick up a fallen wrench, I felt his gaze like a hand on my skin. "Careful," he said, voice low. "Some of those boxes are heavy." I straightened too fast, suddenly aware of the thin cotton clinging to my thighs, the way my pulse beat in my throat. He stepped closer, reached past me for a hammer on the bench. His arm brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. That night I lay awake listening to the waves and the creak of floorboards as he walked to the bathroom. I told myself it was nothing. He was a boy. I was 54. The numbers should have been protection enough. They were not. Days blurred. He started finding excuses to touch me, fingers lingering, when he handed me a coffee mug, a palm steadying my elbow on the uneven path to the beach. Each contact left sparks under my skin. I began choosing dresses that showed my collarbones, leaving my hair down even when the wind whipped it wild. I caught him watching when I leaned over the kitchen counter to reach a high shelf, eyes dark and unreadable. One afternoon, the sky cracked open with summer thunder. Rain hammered the roof while we were trapped inside. I was folding laundry in the living room. He sprawled on the couch pretending to read, but watching me instead. Lightning flashed and the power flickered. In that white instant, I saw the outline of him, clearly: long legs, narrow hips, the unmistakable ridge beneath worn denim. My hands stilled on one of Richard's old shirts. David set the book aside. "Evelyn." It was the first time he would ever used my name. The sound of it in his mouth made my knees weak. "Come here," he said softly. I should have laughed. Should have reminded him who I was, whose mother I was, how wrong this was. Instead, I crossed the room like someone else was moving my feet. When I stood in front of him, he reached up, slow enough that I could have stepped back, and traced one finger along the inside of my wrist. "You feel it too," he said. Not a question. I could not lie. Not anymore. The storm raged outside, but inside the air was thick, electric. He rose from the couch in one fluid motion until he towered over me. I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. His thumb brushed my lower lip. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, "and I will." Thundering drowned whatever fragile protest I might have made. His hand slid to the nape of my neck, gentle but certain, and then his mouth was on mine, warm, tasting of rain and salt and youth. I made a small, helpless sound and kissed him back like I was starving. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine. "This is insane," I managed. "Yeah?" he said, smiling against my lips. "But it is happening." That night, I left my bedroom door ajar for the first time in 12 years. I told myself it meant nothing. I was wrong. The following morning, I woke before dawn, heart hammering like I was the teenager sneaking out, not the 54-year-old woman who had let her son's best friend kiss her senseless in the dark. David's door was still closed when I crept past with coffee, but I could feel him in the house, the way you feel weather coming in your bones. I spent the day hiding in routine, scrubbing counters that were already clean, reorganizing the pantry, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off the ache between my thighs. By late afternoon, the sky had cleared to a hard, bright blue. David found me in the garage again, this time on purpose. "I need help moving the old workbench," he said, voice perfectly innocent. "It is too heavy for one person." I knew it was a lie. The bench was not going anywhere, but I followed him anyway. The garage smelled of sawdust and summer heat. Sunlight slanted through the high window, striping the concrete floor in gold. David closed the side door behind us with a soft click that sounded final. Then he just looked at me. No grin, no teasing, only steady hunger. "Come here, Mrs. Harper." The formal name on his tongue sent a shiver straight to my core. I walked to him slowly, sandals scuffing on the floor, until we were toe to toe. He smelled like sunblock and salt, and something darker that made my mouth water. He cupped my face with both hands, thumb stroking my cheekbones. "Tell me you want this." My voice came out a whisper. "I want this." His kiss was slower this time, deliberate. He tasted every corner of my mouth like he had all the time in the world. When his tongue slid against mine, I felt it in my knees. His hands moved down my throat, over my shoulders, tracing the thin straps of my sundress until I was trembling. Then he stepped back just far enough to see my eyes. "Bend over," he said quietly. "Put your hands on the bench." The words hit me like a wave. I should have been shocked. Instead, heat flooded me so fast I swayed. I turned, palms flattening on the cool wood that Richard had built 30 years ago. The irony should have stopped me. It did not. I heard the soft rasp of his zipper. My breath caught. "Like this?" I asked, voice shaking. "Exactly like that." His hands settled on my hips, gathering the cotton of my dress upward in slow inches. Cool air kissed the backs of my thighs. I was not wearing anything fancy, just simple white panties, but when his fingers hooked the waistband and drew them down, I felt stripped bare in every sense. He did not rush. He traced the curve where my thighs met my backside, thumbs pressing gently, learning me. I closed my eyes and listened to the sound of his breathing, rougher now. "You are beautiful, Evelyn," he murmured. "Every inch of you." Then his palm slid between my legs from behind, one long stroke that made me gasp and push back against his hand without meaning to. I was embarrassingly wet already. He made a low sound of approval, and did it again, parting me, circling that aching spot until my legs shook. "Please," I heard myself say. I did not even know what I was begging for. He gave it to me. One finger became two, sliding deep and curling just right. I bit my lip to keep from crying out. His other hand splayed across my lower back, holding me steady while he worked me open with slow, devastating patience. When he brushed his thumb over that sensitive bundle of nerves, I jerked so hard the bench scraped forward an inch. "Stay still," he ordered softly, and God help me I did. Time narrowed to the slick sounds of his fingers inside me, the creak of old wood under my grip, the distant cry of gulls outside. I was climbing fast, embarrassingly fast, but he knew. Of course he knew. Just when I was teetering on the edge, he withdrew, leaving me empty and desperate. I whimpered. Actually whimpered. Then I felt the blunt heat of him pressing against me. He paused, letting me feel how hard he was, how much he wanted this too. "Tell me again," he said against my ear, voice ragged now. "I want you inside me, please, David." He pushed in with one long, steady thrust that stole every ounce of air from my lungs. The stretch burned beautifully. I had not been touched like this in over a decade. And he was bigger than Richard had ever been, filling me so completely I saw stars. He gave me a moment, just a moment to adjust, then started to move. Slow at first, dragging out and sliding back in until I was pushing back to meet him, chasing more. His hands tightened on my hips. "Harder," I gasped. He obliged. The bench rocked beneath us. Tools clattered to the floor. Neither of us cared. Every stroke sent pleasure crashing through me, building and building, until I could not hold back the sounds anymore, breathless moans that echoed off the rafters. He reached around and found that perfect spot again, rubbing in tight circles while he took me from behind. And I shattered. The climax hit so hard my vision went white. I clenched around him, pulsing, helpless, and he groaned my name like it hurt. A few more deep thrusts and he followed me over, burying himself to the hilt and spilling hot inside me with a shudder that I felt in my bones. We stayed locked together, panting, his chest against my back, until the world stopped spinning. Eventually he eased out and turned me around. My legs would not hold. He caught me, lifting me onto the bench so I sat facing him, dress rucked up around my waist, his release sliding warm down my thigh. He kissed me softly, almost reverently. "I have wanted to do that since I was 16, he confessed against my lips. I laughed, shaky and stunned. "You are terrible. You have no idea." That night he came to my room without asking. We did not speak much. There was nothing left to pretend. He undressed me slowly in the moonlight. Kissing every new inch of skin, he uncovered my throat, my breasts, the faint silver lines on my stomach from carrying Ethan. When he spread my thighs and tasted me for the first time, I had to muffle my cries in the pillow. He stayed until dawn, learning exactly how to make me come apart with his mouth, his fingers, his body. By the time the sky turned pink, we were slick with sweat and each other. And I knew without a shadow of doubt that there was no going back. The first week after the garage, time lost all shape. Days were measured only by when David could touch me again and when he could not. We became experts at near misses. His hand sliding up my thigh under the kitchen table while I pretended to read the newspaper. Me on my knees in the pantry while he kept watch for neighbors. Quick, breathless encounters in the shower, with the water masking every sound. I told myself it was just summer madness, that when August ended, he would go back to California, and I would fold this secret away like a photograph in a locked drawer. But every time he looked at me, I felt 25 again, reckless and alive. One night we drove north to Oswald West, parked where the dirt road ends and the rainforest swallows the headlights. He spread a blanket in the bed of his Jeep and took me under a sky so thick with stars it felt close enough to touch. The ocean roared 100 feet below the cliff. He moved slow that night, almost tender, whispering my name like a prayer while he filled me again and again, until I was sobbing with it. When we finished, he held me against his chest and said, "I am not leaving, Evelyn. Not unless you make me." I did not answer. I could not. Because the truth was clawing its way up my throat, I did not want him to go. Ever. The danger crept in quietly. Ethan called one Sunday morning, voice bright. "Mom, we are coming down next weekend. Surprise visit, can't wait to see the old place." Panic hit me so hard I had to sit down. David was in the kitchen making coffee, shirtless, a fresh mark I had left on his shoulder still red. He read my face and went very still. "We will be careful," he said after I hung up. "Separate rooms. Cold showers, whatever you need." But we were not careful. We were greedy. The night before Ethan arrived, David woke me at 3 a.m. with his mouth between my legs. I bit the pillow so hard I tasted blood while he brought me off twice, then flipped me over and took me from behind with a hand over my mouth to keep me quiet. When he finally let himself go, he buried his face in my neck and whispered, "I love you, Evelyn Harper. God help me, I love you." I came a third time, just from the words. Ethan and his wife Sarah arrived Friday afternoon with their toddler in tow. The house filled with normal noise, cartoons, high chair clatters, the smell of macaroni and cheese. David played the perfect houseguest, wrestling with his little nephew on the living room rug, charming Sarah, asking Ethan about his new job. I watched them together, these two boys who used to build sand forts, now men, and felt something inside me crack wide open. That night, I lay rigid in my bed listening to the baby monitor down the hall. David's door was 10 feet away, 10 impossible feet. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed under my pillow. "Meet me on the deck, please." I told myself no all the way down the stairs. I was barefoot, wearing only an old silk robe. The fog had rolled in thick. I could not see the ocean, only hear it. David stepped out of the shadows and pulled me against him without a word. His mouth tasted desperate. We did not make it farther than the storage bench by the railing. He sat, drew me onto his lap facing away, pushed my robe aside, and entered me in one slick thrust. The fog swallowed my moan. He held my hips and moved me on him slow and deep. One hand clamped over my mouth, the other working between my legs. I came biting down on his palm, shaking so hard he had to hold me together. He followed seconds later, pulsing inside me, my name muffled against my shoulder. We stayed locked like that, breathing each other in, until the cold finally reached our skin. He kissed the tears I had not realized were falling. "I can't keep pretending," he said. "I won't sneak around like I am ashamed of you. And I won't destroy my son," I whispered. He rested his forehead against my spine. "Then we tell him. Or I leave. Those are the only two choices left." The rest of the weekend was torture. Smiles that hurt. Polite conversation over burnt pancakes. Ethan asked why I seemed distracted. I blamed migraines. Sunday evening they packed the car. Ethan hugged me hard on the porch. Okay, Mom, you look different." I laughed too brightly. "Just tired, sweetheart." David stood behind him, hands in his pockets, eyes burning holes through me. When Ethan turned to buckle the baby in, David mouthed two words: "Choose now." The taillights disappeared down the cliff road. Silence rushed back in like the tide. I found David in the garage, staring at the bench where it had all begun. He did not turn when I walked up behind him. "Tell me to pack," he said quietly. "Tell me to get in my Jeep and drive away and never come back. I will do it, Evelyn. If that is what you need, I will do it." I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind and pressed my face between his shoulder blades. His heart was racing. "I am 54 years old," I said against his shirt. "I have spent my whole life being careful. Good wife, good mother, good widow. I am tired of careful." He turned in my arms. "What are you saying?" "I am saying stay. I am saying I love you too. And we will figure out the rest together, whatever it costs." For the first time in weeks he smiled, really smiled, the same crooked grin he would had at age 6 when he stole the last cookie. Then he kissed me. Slow and deep and certain, right there under the bare garage bulb with the smell of sawdust and salt all around us. Later, much later, tangled in my sheets with moonlight striping his back, he traced the faint lines around my eyes and said, "You know, people will talk." "Let them," I answered, arching into his touch. "I have wasted enough years worrying what people think." He slid inside me again, unhurried, like we had all the time in the world now. and for the first time in 12 years I believed we did. Outside, the Pacific kept rolling in. Endless and unafraid. Just like us.